What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are rebuilding the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we're trying to turn the team into a dynasty at this point. We have, as you know, gone back-to-back as World Series champions here in 2030, 2031. So we're going to turn our attention ahead today to the 2032 season as we try to run it back with largely the same team and recapture the World Series yet again for our third straight. Big hopes for the team this upcoming season. I have a lot of notes written down. A ton of news kind of emerges on the first day of the offseason, which we are currently on. So we'll review that together in this episode and go through offseason awards, simulate all the way up until open free agency, and kind of take a look at the available players together before ending the episode there. I'm thinking we'll just do this upcoming offseason in 2 episodes. We'll do this first table setting half, and then next episode we'll do all the rest of it, including IAFA free agency and spring training. So we'll be right back into more regular season games ASAP with the team because I kind of want to push through this upcoming 2032 season quickly and see if we can make another run in the playoffs. So as always, I appreciate you guys for returning to the series, checking back in on these videos. I gave you a scare not posting for a couple of days, but I committed to running it back for another year, and that's what we're going to do here. But I don't really think we're going to make too many changes to our roster overall because so many of these guys are still under team control and are still, very capable players for us. So let's go ahead and take a look. Obviously, I was scrolling through there in the background. You can take the time to appreciate all of the faces that have made contributions on this team this season. And, they'll go down in history. We have a couple of 6-WAR guys, 5-WAR guys. Everyone just played tremendously well. So really, really pleased with our playoff run. It was, super exciting to come back from 3-1 against the Dodgers in that last video. I had a really fun time making it. So appreciate you guys returning back to the series as always. Let's dive into the news. So we get a lot of mail here. I'm going to try to not spoil all the messages here, but we have some option decisions needed in our bullpen. We have Cole Sands, Brian Hudson, and Jojo Romero all on, pretty modest options, 2.5, 3.5, and 2.4. Essentially, I think we're going to bring them all back. I think they can all still play at a high quality level for at least one more season. That's all we're signing up for with these is just, a deal through next season. And, especially Hudson and Romero both being quality left-handed starters. Cole Sands is fragile, but he is a very well-balanced pitcher and still one of our higher-rated arms. So I would like to bring him back as well. So we're going to pick up all of those. I haven't actually done that yet. But the first bit of major news, I guess. I'm going to scroll past some of this, but we got extended and we get a big pay raise, you guys. We're now on a 4-year deal for $1.4 million per year. So thank you to Bob for believing in us. Obviously, we have won 2 straight World Series, and we've positioned this team well for a dynasty running through the 2030s here. So the next decade is looking awesome for us, and we're renewed for close to half of that. Probably the bigger news is that our fan loyalty increased yet again. I'm so surprised at how quickly this has moved up, but we now have a good loyalty rating, which is awesome. We're going to be able to increase our ticket prices even more and keep the snowball rolling and hopefully achieve a higher budget next year as well, because this year our budget is $220 million, which is the highest we have received so far in this series. So I'll jump over here to the owner tab. You can see this kind of bar graph here showing our budget going up year over year. So 220 is a $8 million increase year over year from our $212 million budget last season. So this is pretty big time. It's still not great. It comes in at 23rd, which is roughly where we were last season as well. So definitely still bottom third in all of baseball with our budget, and 28th in payroll currently. So the goal has shifted to build a dynasty, and you can see our loyalty is now in this kind of teal blue, which is awesome to see. Fan interest up to 97, and our market size is still below average, but I wouldn't expect that to change too much. And you can see we have a big chunk of available change. I mean, we haven't touched on our arbitration eligible players yet, but I don't know where we're gonna spend this money, you guys. I truly don't know. So it's gonna be a challenge. We just funnel it into player dev, and we could go over on our draft budget again, but it's still kind of a lot of money, and I think we just have so many guys on the minimum that I'm not certain we're gonna end up spending this or not. We'll kind of have to see. So those were the major bits of news. We'll get more into that budget thing later. A lot of our coaching staff has retired, and some of them have left as well. I think the most notable is our pitching coach has retired. So we have to fill our pitching coach vacancy yet again at the major league level. I will do all of that, of course, off camera. And we got a new prospect list as well. So shockingly, this is the first prospect list with new draftees in it that we were drafting in July, right? So Ben Small has actually slipped out of the top 10, but he has not slipped all that far. We are still the fourth best system in all of the majors. So Ben Small comes in at 12 and Javi Ruiz is at 14. So 2 top 15 prospects, still pretty good. Alexis Braina is actually down to 50 and Tony Granger is down to 54. So they have both slipped a little bit. As far as other players here, we have Kung Fu Panda at 127, Angel Rico 130, Wallace Cannell 137, and Ryan Malaguti 153. Dave Chavez, our first round pick, is at 169, and Jesus Perez, our third round pick, the lefty reliever, is at 194. So the pitcher we took, Majkowski, is not listed here, which is fine. And Chavez is listed a little bit lower than I would have liked, but I'm still pretty bullish on them both long-term to be effective pieces for us. So don't think, Ben Small, I think it's going to be hard to fit him in this season. We're going to get him in the dev lab. I'll show you what we're doing there in a moment. But, obviously we will fit him in if he looks ready. And we'll just worry about we can send down Phil Goodall or something. I don't know that Phil Goodall is stopping us from calling up the number 12 prospect in baseball by any means. So we'll kind of see how things look in spring training and at the end of the offseason. Obviously injuries are a factor as well. But I've sort of kind of sculpted out how I want the team to look this season, and I can show you that in a bit. But let's actually take a look at the dev lab next, because I think there will be some interesting things to see. All right, player dev. So we're doing a couple interesting things here, and it's mostly prospect related, but I did want to get a couple of our, marquee major league guys in there. So we're putting Dan Beebe on strength and conditioning. I just kind of want to preserve his longevity. He's never had major injury concerns, but forearm tendonitis did kind of flare up last year, and I'm just trying to get in front of it. He's only 26 years old. I want to make sure he's positioned well for a Hall of Fame career at this point. He's one of the best young pitchers in all of baseball. You could say this is probably a wasted slot, but I would disagree. I don't really know what the thresholds are for injury proneness, and I have tried not to, look at many of our guys here, but I'm just trying to, make sure he stays non-fragile for as long as possible. I think my understanding is that player health kind of deteriorates naturally over time, regardless of major injury history or not. So, he could, be healthy for years and still see his health kind of degrade silently in the background, and he just, one day suddenly turns fragile off of a very minor injury. So trying to just preserve his strength. Same for Wyatt Sanford, but we know Wyatt Sanford is fragile. But we saw last year what he can do in a full season of work. He played 150 games, got, accrued 6.6 WAR. So I'm still not totally out on signing him long-term past this final year of arbitration. We could decline this and extend him into his 30s if it makes sense. He is a great player on paper, and if he is able to turn non-fragile, I think that would be something we would have to consider. We're also going to work in Gabe Ariano on a contact program because we still see 10 points of upside in his BABIP and contact here. You could argue eye or power, but I feel like those skills are less important when all of these are like 65, 80. So opted for the contact here. Let me know if you would have chosen differently there. Looking forward to like what he can provide us next season. I think he'll be penciled in to start on against both sides of pitching. We're also going to get Ben Big Boy Small in on a bat speed program. We at one point viewed both of these gap power and power as like 70 grade tools with him. So going to try to max out one of them. I feel like power, even though it doesn't play great in our park, is just the more desirable skill set overall, and he'll definitely benefit from unlocking that. So fingers crossed. Most of the programs we're doing are like very difficult, so we'll see what our success rate ends up looking like at the end of this. We're also putting Tony Granger on a strength and conditioning program. So Tony has kind of had a rough go of it. He's never produced at a super high level, apart from his very first season at high A ball, where I think he was fine. Otherwise, the ERA plus and FIP minuses have not been trending in a positive direction. And now he's fragile. I want to get him back on track. He's a captain personality, so I'm really hoping he can work out. But at 24 now, you kind of question if he's ever going to be able to tap into these tools. So you could, argue a bunch of different ways with this. I'm choosing the health option because, if he rolls a great result, it could tick up his velocity and his stuff as well, and he could, max out his fastball a little bit more. So that's what we're doing with Tony. We're putting Alexis Braina in here, our IAFA shortstop signing from last season. His stats in the DSL 55 games, it looks like he got several extra base hits, ended up batting .293 for a .918 OPS. I think it's likely he gets pushed to Florida Complex League to start the season. And, you look at these attribute ratings, and contact is kind of the one that is missing. So I think he probably splits time across rookie leagues this year, depending on how he does at, the Florida Complex. He could go up to Florida A-ball to end the season, but I think it's more likely he's Florida Complex and then back down to rookie DSL to kind of end the year, just to fully max him out, because he'll just still be 18 years old. It's kind of aggressive to put him in A-ball. Javi Ruiz, we're going back to bat speed. We sort of alternated. We did bat speed 2 years ago. Plate discipline was last year, and now we're going back to bat speed this year, trying to make sure both of these are growing in tandem at the same rate, and expecting big things out of him this year. It's likely he gets run at A-ball potentially, as he is nearly or approaching 20 years old. I think we can look to get him into full season A-ball. Kung Fu Panda is going on a bat speed program as well. Definitely want to preserve this. It's kind of the tool that is lacking most currently at only a 30 grade in our scout's eye. Corner outfield, left-handed hitter, 6'5", 205. We need the power to come along. He only had 5 homers in 48 games at rookie ball last season, even though he was a positive hitter overall with a 114 WRC+. Just want to unlock a little bit more there. And then we actually are going to Greg Mykowski. You could say, well, you'll notice Chavez is missing from this list, and I think that's fine. I just view our pitching needs further down the road as more critical. I think we have a ton of position player talent. I want to get another pitcher, on the fast track to the majors. I don't know that Tony Granger is that guy. So we're kind of putting our eggs in the Mykowski basket here, asking him to unlock this big time movement potential we see with him. So hopefully we can do that. He has a high work ethic, so looking forward to what he can achieve, the only medium difficulty program we are attempting here. And finally, it's a player that we haven't touched on much, but is Jacoby Rodriguez, a catching prospect who is originally a scouting discovery, who's already pretty fully developed at almost 21 years old. He's not the best defender, but at AA last season was a positive hitter, has hit really at every level throughout his minor league career. And I think he gets run at AAA this season, because you look at his bat and it's pretty prolific. These are ratings relative to MLB. Like, he could come up right now. The only reason he's not is we have Axel Plaz still currently. And, I would like him to become less of a platoon risk. We still think there is power to unlock in his overall profile. So we'll see if we can tap into that. And then I also want to get him in on a defensive program as well, because really the catching toolkit is not great with him. If we do ever want him contributing, he's going to need to catch in some capacity. So hopefully we can boost that in the next round of programs as well. So investing a bit of resources into him. Hopefully he can make things happen. So that's DevLab. Let me know if all of this makes sense to you. Let's now pivot to arbitration. Okay, y'all. First, I noticed some of the colors were a little washed out in the recording of those previous clips, so I think I've fixed it. Let me know if this is better for you guys. Sorry. I guess something changed in my OBS. It was updated or something. We should be back now to our regular colors. Let's take a look at arbitration. I don't think there are any major surprises here from what we would expect. We're bringing everyone back pretty much. That includes Finn McElroy, Axel Plaz, Termar Johnson, Edward Lantigua, Connor Griffin, and Carson Benj. I think it's likely that Benj is our full-time first baseman this upcoming season. He's not like a crazy defender there or anything, and it kind of stinks to take his arm out of right field, but we just have such a logjam at outfield that I think it makes the most sense to play him at first base, where he can platoon with Seth Weinberger. So he'll take, the at-bats against righties, Weinberger against lefties, and they can kind of split time that way. I don't know that Carson Benj is like a tremendous player. He's given us some great years, no doubt. He's been with us since 2028, and he's had seasons of 131, 128, WRC plus, two very strong seasons. He was a bit down last year in 2030, and then this year close to just league average in 2031. So I'm kind of questioning who the real Carson Benj is, hoping on a big bounce back for him as he enters his age 29 season. He's an extremely popular player, so I think that's partially why we're bringing him back as well, and kind of brings that pop from the left-hand side that we don't really have in the lineup outside of Omar or Alfonso. So ultimately decided to bring him back, was kind of questioning it. Either way, we're doing one-year deals for all of these guys, so no long-term commitments. Axel Plaz is maybe another guy who could be he wants to start, so I don't love that, but I don't think that Zach Hammer is truly ready, and we need a catcher who's capable of hitting left-handed pitching. I think Plaz fits the bill for that, and he also brings that good defense. So, normally I don't like paying backup catchers multi-million-dollar deals, but I think 2.4 we can stomach as it's just his first year of arbitration. And maybe if Zach Hammer rolls a really strong offseason development, we look to trade Plaz in spring training or something like that. I'll show you what Hammer is looking like. He's currently in the fall league playing, but he's just kind of a fringe catcher, right? He is a captain and he brings good defense, but the bat is nowhere near what Plaz brings us currently. He lacks a lot of power that Plaz provides. So, I don't know that he's more than a 4A player ultimately. So that's why I'm sort of willing to bring back Plaz, I guess, on, like I mentioned, the multi-million-dollar deal. So all of those guys will get one-year renewals. The only one we are not renewing is Esther Suero, who we will ultimately look to trade. He has a bunch of team control left, and I think he could be a valuable piece for somebody out there. It's just not going to be us, unfortunately. So we'll look to move off of him. I haven't done any shopping, but I will do that in the coming days to see what we can do. We have two pitchers coming up, Mike Burrows and Robert Gasser both. Of course, Robert Gasser had a brutal injury in his final start with us in the playoffs there with the torn labrum, 9 to 10 month injury. Mike Burrows has been a pretty decent player for us for a number of seasons. At this point, he is, accumulated 6.6 career WAR. But he's kind of just a replacement level guy at this point, about to turn 32. We're going to move on here. Neither one I'm going to tender the QO. Had Gasser been healthy, I think it's likely we would have, but given his injury, I think it's far too risky to extend that, and there would be no point. He would probably accept it. So we're going to non-QO both. We also have Edwin Diaz, who we're going to let test. He got his ring with us. Sugar got his, reached the World Series, closed it out. I think he's been solid. We just have so many other guys in the bullpen we need to fit in, and considering he's going to be like 38 for the majority of next season, the thought of bringing him back really kind of scares me, even though he only wants a pretty modest deal. I think he's looking for like $8 million, but he wants tenure. He wants 2 years. So we're just going to kind of, leave it as a 1-year season and move on here from him. And then we have, a bunch of minor league guys. They're actually, I don't normally address these, but there are some names that we're going to let walk that are notable, I guess, in the lore of the series. We're going to let Jonathan Santucci walk. He's about to be 29. He was never able to find the control. Just kind of a 4A player again, not super great here. We have other lefties I like better, so, he'll go. A piece of the Paul Skeens trade. Tony Blanco Jr. never really materialized for us. I've seen him have good runouts in other simulations, but I'm kind of done here. Don't really want him in the org any longer. Also looking to move on, unfortunately, from Zane Petty. I think his mood is mainly why he's about to be 28, and he kind of just stalled out at the AAA level, never really developed. He did make, 6 starts for us ultimately at the major leagues and was pretty decent, just replacement level in those, but our 2025 8th round pick will not be with us any longer. And these ones really hurt. We're going to let go of Gavin Turley. He doesn't really have any expectations at this point, but don't really love his low leader and questionable work ethic anymore. I think we've squeezed everything we can out of him, and it's time for him to find a new home, so he will be gone. And then Quentin Young, you guys, the infamous first pick in the series. I don't hold this too much against, obviously it's massively disappointing for a 6th overall pick to turn out this way, but I think back to where we were at with that draft, jumping in with a live start date. We had very little scouting information on anyone available in the draft, and I was just, basing my decisions off of measurables, and I was watching the real life combine at the time, and I was like, wow, Quentin Young looks like a beast. Let's definitely take him. And he just never turned out to be anything good. So he actually had a 2.8 WAR season at AA last year, flying under the radar, had over 100 RBI and 33 home runs, but we just don't really see any more growth potential with him at all. So gonna let him move on. If he catches on somewhere else, so be it, but it will not be with our Pirates. So that's what we're doing in ARB. Sort of parlayed it into a stat review, but ultimately I think all of these guys are gonna come back, and I've sort of sculpted out a little graphical depth chart here of what we're looking for. I think the name on the chopping block is probably Camden Koziel. We have so many guys in the outfield that we're trying to work in. We have Phil Goodall, who I think can kind of serve as primary backup outfielder. I'm viewing the outfield as Kettleson, full-time left fielder. He's obviously been so good for us. Great defense, great in the box. I want to give him full-time run in left. Connor Griffin, obviously full-time in center. I view right field as a platoon where Lantigua and Ariano alternate with that and DH, given Lantigua is fragile. I think I want both of them kind of rotating in, and I think Ariano can play right field and be fine. So I think that's kind of one, and then we need somebody to back up center and left. We want to carry Seth Weinberger, but I view him more as a first baseman, DH. So I think Phil Goodall can slot in as the backup out here, or potentially Ben Small if we choose to go that route. And then Carson Bench takes first base, and at that point we can only carry one backup infielder if we're going to carry two outfielders. If we have Goodall and Weinberger, we can't carry Koziel, so Koziel would go down to AAA presumably. He's just been kind of an average hitter, so it doesn't bother me too much, but it's kind of disappointing. All of this obviously subject to change with injury. I think we would look to train up Alex Harrington to play third base, and he just kind of fills in all three spots, second, short, third as backup. So, the catching platoon stays the same, and that's sort of, how I'm viewing it. So there's really not much for us to do, so that makes me think that this offseason is going to move rather quickly. Of course, things may change as I go on, but that is sort of what we're looking at. I'm going to get things rolling here, and we're not going to do a stat review. I think we're kind of beyond that, and we have a good idea of how guys are performing. So don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'm going to continue moving here through award season, and we can circle back at the end. I would like to have found a trade for Esther Suero by that time. We'll review all the awards, and then we will sim up to open free agency. All right, guys, jumping in here a little bit early before we get to award season. It's been a few days, and a lot of our ARB guys have signed with us, which is great. But I was looking to move Esther Suero like we talked about, and the market really isn't all that robust here. We only have a couple of teams interested. It looks like KC and Minnesota are the willing parties on the other side. And, there's not great options here. This guy is the highest rated potential guy, but ultimately all of these players, I'm not really trying to find anyone who is close to Major League ready. I'm sort of looking for projects. So these 35 grade guys are more where my head is at. And I'm kind of in between. Kansas City offers Josh Ward. He's about to be 26, and he just profiles as a fringe utility player. I think he's probably the most interesting option they are, putting on the table, just kind of a plus contact forward guy. But at his age, you never know if that would actually come along. I think the player I'm going to trade for is Jim Mancini, an outfield prospect from Minnesota, who, funnily enough, is also a switch hitter. So we're swapping switch hitter for switch hitter. We're giving them Suero. We're getting Mancini in return. I don't even know if he would ever play for us down the line, but I'm at least willing to bet on him being the youngest player available with high work ethic, on this whole board. He is by far the youngest. So we're going to move off of the 26-year-old Suero and trade him for a 23-year-old outfielder who is, maybe a little bit of a higher ceiling player, at least comparable, I would say. So, again, not the best market. They will hopefully renew Suero on a deal, but we're going to just go ahead and push this through. Hopefully, if they don't renew him, I'll feel bad for poaching a prospect, so we'll have to check in at open free agency to see what they end up doing. But anyway, Mancini's never played above high A. I think he needs to get up to double A, maybe even triple A with us, and we'll see how he can do. In any case, we're going to go ahead and complete this deal. And there we go. Suero goes to Minnesota. Hopefully they re-sign him. We bring in Mancini, and we will see if he can play. I think we will just go ahead and put him at Double A and assume he can figure it out at some point. So, other guys have signed. All of our arbitration guys, if we go back to the ARB screen, we have no remaining players to negotiate with. So everyone has re-signed, including Connor Griffin, Carson Bench, Termar Johnson, Finn McElroy. Everyone is happy. The fans are, ecstatic. Our fan interest is now up to 98. All of those signings pushed us up 1 point from 97 to 98 now. And we're pretty much smooth sailing. So I'll be back at the start of the off season, I think. And we can double back on all the award news then and take a look ahead at the pool. All right, guys, fast forward. It is November 21st. All of the awards have been announced. Arbitration is done, and we are staring down open free agency. But let's kind of recap everything that has happened over the last several weeks of game time. We're going to start with the Gold Glove Award winners here in the AL. Familiar names. Drew Romo is pretty perennial at this point. Carson Williams as well. Spencer Jones is funny to see out there in left field. In the NL, we get a little bit of recognition. Wyatt Sanford and Carson Benj actually makes it as a right fielder. So, I had mentioned previously about maybe moving him to first base, but I'm actually sort of rethinking that now, given he's won sort of back-to-back Gold Gloves in right field with that 75 grade arm. I've started to condense these awards that were getting a little bit annoying for me to sort of sort through. So minor change there. But given he's back-to-back Gold Glove winner, I think we'll try to keep him in right and figure something else out at first base. So I have some ideas there. Sanford also recognized at shortstop. It is his first Gold Glove award, his first award of like any kind, really. So definitely happy for him. Best AL reliever goes to our old friend Cade Smith in a unanimous vote. He was with Detroit and put together a great season. 37 saves, 1.48 ERA, 1.12 WHIP. Everything looks super great. It's frustrating. He's been like amazing pretty much every season except the year that we traded for him from Cincinnati, where he only put up like a 1.1 WAR on the season. Since then, back-to-back 2+ WAR seasons. So he's a free agent now, looking to cash in on another payday. So we'll take a look at the pool after we go through all of these. And then in the NL, you'll think this is funny probably, but Brian Abreu wins in his first season with the Mets. We cut him loose, of course, after sort of an up and down year, and then he bounces back in a major way, getting 41 saves for the Mets, only blowing 5 with the 1.6 WAR on the season. So was not giving up the homer there in Queens like he was with us. So just kind of bizarre. He's also a free agent, so hopefully he can cash in as well, but we will not be interested in him. JoJo gets 2 very, very down ballot votes, but otherwise no recognition. Silver Sluggers in the AL. Here we go. I'm not sure who Jose Sandoval is. It looks like a very young player. We'll actually click in because he is, oh my gosh, he looks insane. Vincent Van Gogh is an IAFA signing back in 2026. I do vaguely kind of remember that nickname, but he has not been on my radar until just now. So he looks like a tremendous player. Obviously, 4.8 WAR, 147 WRC plus. Otherwise, Jackson Holiday, Sebastian Walcott, Gunnar Henderson, like the names we're used to seeing. You've got to be kidding. The outfielder Braylon Brazoban is actually a Silver Slugger for the Twins. You remember we packaged him with Cedric Mullins to get him off of our books, and he was just a 115 WRC plus hitter, so I can't understand why he would be recognized as a Silver Slugger. So this is just like throwing it in our face at this point. Vladdy Jr. as DH. In the NL, we have one recognition, one player recognized, I guess, Termar Johnson he had a great year, a real breakout season, career high in homers at 27, 31 steals, 132 WRC plus. But none of our outfielders, Connor Griffin misses out. I think that's probably the most glaring omission, if I had to say. Alfonso missing out at catcher as well. Francisco Alvarez claims that. As far as rookies go, AL's top rookie is Woo-Shun Sun, the outfielder from Taipei who signed with the Cleveland Guardians last offseason in a unanimous sweep. In the NL, it is Miguel Vasquez for the Nationals with 25 first-place votes. CJ Kayfus here, who debuted in real life earlier this season, so he kind of took a long time to get going in this sim, but Miguel Vasquez is another like first base prospect, a scouting discovery, actually prospect number 100 in the rankings right now. Looks to be very good for the Nationals, so good for them for finding this guy. He's actually more of a corner outfielder, although they're playing him at first base. Okay, what's next here? We got managers. So Ryan Scott of the Tampa Bay Rays is your manager of the year in the AL, and our guy, Melvin Brazaban takes NL Manager of the Year. A couple guys get traded here. Cy Young, Joey McManus, who we actually faced up against in the World Series, takes it in the AL, 21 first place votes. Noah Schultz gets second place for the White Sox. I would say no other notable names here, but McManus was a very solid pitcher. You'll remember his stats from the postseason, hopefully. Our guy, Dan Beebe, returns to the throne, beating out Paul Skeens. They just alternate year in, year out. Dan Beebe sweeps it this year, unanimous 30 first place votes. Finn McElroy actually places third, so two guys on the podium for us is awesome. But Dan Beebe is putting together quite the career. Cy Young's in 2029 and 2031. He's a three-time All-Star and two-time MLB champion in sort of 3 full years of pitching with us. We brought him up in 2028 to work out of the bullpen in a very limited role. It did not go well, looking at his stat line. But we still believed in him, signed him to a debut deal here. Well, not technically, but, a preseason deal here in 2029. We believed in the attributes, and we have been rewarded with, 5, almost 6+ WAR every season. 19.4 WAR on his career. He's looking awesome. So just hoping he does not run into any injury issues down the line. Gunnar Henderson is your MVP in the AL, beating out Sebastian Walcott. Kind of a split vote here. A couple down ballot guys who you would recognize. In the NL, it is James Wood with 25 first place votes. Again, James Wood is an insane player in this sim. $47.5 million contract for him. He hit 47 homers and OPS over $1 there. So, 173 WRC plus is insane. He beats out Emil Morales, who, I consider to be probably the best hitter in the sim overall. Dan Beebe actually places third and manages to get 5 first place votes, but well behind Wood and Morales in, the pecking order. Sanford, Griffin also recognized down here, as well as Termar Johnson. So a lot of our guys showing well, but no one able to, claim the MVP, but I didn't really expect us to either. So those are the awards. Let me bounce over to the available free agents, and I'll show you those guys next. Before we get to the free agents, actually, I wanted to update y'all on some personnel moves. We extended our manager, Melvin Brazaban, for another 5 seasons. He was not, expiring this year, but his contract would be up at the end of next season, so got a little ahead of it. Maybe signed him for a discount, $300K pay raise for him. Got that contract signed before he won Manager of the Year again. Just kind of, very well balanced across the board. Gets along with all of our players. Think he's a great manager. This will take him to almost age 60. But the real exciting part, we filled out all of our staff. The real exciting bit is that Andrew McCutchen is now the manager of our rookie league team, the FCL Pirates. Kutch is back in the org. Not like a tremendous manager, I would say. He's only good at developing and outstanding at mechanics, but he can teach good defense. Hopefully can be an asset down here. He was previously the manager of the Marlins and just did not get renewed, I assume, after his contract expired. So, kind of just bringing him on for the novelty. I don't think he's the most optimal manager if we're min-maxing all of our player development. I think there are better guys we could have gone with, but overall, he has a pretty good split of relationships here with everyone down there, and he's good at developing. So felt like that's notable to address that we brought him back. A couple of other bits of news before we get to free agency. I ended up, and you'll see why I did this in a bit, but I ended up QOing Robert Gasser, which I was hesitant to do, but I was taking a look at the upcoming pitching free agents, and you'll see in just a bit, but he was actually literally the highest rated upcoming free agent, and even though he had the torn labrum, I felt like he was going to try to cash in on these 2+ WAR back-to-back seasons he's had, and I felt like we could get away with QOing him. And it turns out we can. So, he declined the offer. I don't know if we'll get a first, supplemental back for him. It just depends on kind of how things go. But we actually get some draft capital, which I think is great. And the international free agents were revealed as well. So there are a couple of position players and a couple of pitchers that are noteworthy. We'll start with this catcher, Shukyan B, who is a huge power bat catcher, but he's going to strike out a ton. Can actually play the outfield as well, and he's only 24. So out of Taipei, he's kind of interesting. I don't know that he's for us because I usually try to avoid these strikeout guys, and as a righty hitter, his power might not play the best in our park, but we're doing due diligence. We're scouting. Like all of the guys I'm about to show you, we're scouting. So, they grow in certain attribute categories, and I like what I see. Maybe we make a play for them, but he's interesting as a batter. A couple of these infielders are interesting as well. Gilbert Goto, who is like a very contact forward, pretty bad fielder. I would say he's not the most versatile guy, but maybe that changes once we get more scouting clarity on him. Kind of just a slap it around left-handed hitter, but felt like he was interesting enough to look at further. And 22, maybe he's a ball of clay we can kind of mold. You never know. Arturo Rivera is similar. All these guys are kind of in the 45 grade range, but Rivera brings a little more defensive upside and a little more speed on the base path. He's kind of more of a small ball guy though with the bunt attributes. But again, 22, durable, not going to demand much. Maybe we look to bring him on as well. And I think that's kind of it. I'll show you this player as well. Liju Zhao is a lefty shortstop, a bit older. I don't think I really want to pursue him at all very much. So kind of just those first couple, I would say those first three are interesting. The pitchers are a little more strong in this. We have Edwin Mendoza, who is I said Robert Gasser was the best pitcher in the class, and that was until this guy dropped on the scene. He's about to be 27 for the majority of this upcoming season, or I guess all of it. And he is out of Cuba, looks really awesome. 4-pitch mix, 2 well above average elite pitches, and 2 pretty good. Great stamina. We have low scouting accuracy, so not certain that this is, who he truly is, but he's demanding big time money. If we come in here, you can see it's just a really scary contract that he's coming to the table with. So I don't know that he's for us, but if we get a better scouting report back and maybe he lingers and he's willing to come down, we could try something interesting. He is young enough to where, I wouldn't totally rule it off the table. We have a ton of money available, so we can be somewhat aggressive, but I just still would like to be smart with it. So we'll learn more about Mendoza and see how things look. All of these other guys, I would say even this guy, Hajime Yoshida, I'm not really interested in him. He's just a very bizarre player in that he's throwing mid-80s, and he has generational movement and control, but it's how would these pitches possibly play? I mean, I could be proven wrong. He has a forkball curve slider. He's just got a ton of weird stuff going on here. So, wants a pretty penny. I'll be curious to follow his career. I don't think he is a pitcher that I am interested in bringing on, but notable to mention, I suppose. And then I also think I like this Juan Garcia guy to a degree, but probably not for us considering he's only got 2 pitches, but his 2 pitches are, quite good. So as a specialist against righties, maybe he could work, but I don't think it's likely we pursue him either. So as far as major league free agents, let's see, where are they? There they are. You can see the top line names here. We'll go to the full list in a sec, but top line names: Nick Kurtz, Justin Martinez, I would say Xavier Isaac, Austin Riley, Dylan Cruz are also notable. So let's jump to the full table and see what we have. All right, here we go. This is going to be the last thing we do in this episode, and then we'll leave it there, and you guys can have a chance to give some feedback on what we might think to do. But as far as top potential players in the class, we've sort of covered most of them. They're the international guys. They're the pitcher Mendoza and Yoshida. at the top 65 or I guess 60 plus grade, Justin Martinez is here. You can see I've noted the guys I'm scouting, my usual technique to kind of signal who I'm interested in. Justin Martinez is here, and he's actually, he's rated insane. Like, his attributes are off the charts, but you'll notice he hasn't really pitched since 2030. So he missed most of last season and was not really able to produce. His injury history shows that he had a torn rotator cuff that he suffered in like February, I suppose. So kind of a very serious injury, I would say. 6 years removed from a right UCL sprain that was in 2025, I guess like real life. But, I rescouted him, or, we're in the process of rescouting him. He's demanding like a really big deal. But, given our financial situation, I guess I should have mentioned that we have $39.3 million of available money for, acquiring new players. You can see he only wants 27. I say only, but he wants 27, which falls well under that. And, it's possible we could bring on a lockdown closer. We give him like a 1+1 bounce back deal just to prove he still has it. I don't know. I think maybe teams would be reticent to bring him on given he hasn't pitched in a whole year. Maybe that's how I would spin it in my head canon, but we'll kind of see on him. He's definitely very talented. Of course, don't love or would never condone paying a closer like close to $30 million a year, but in this fantasy world, maybe. I don't think we'd necessarily need it. It would be like a luxury. So he's at the top of the list. If we narrow down to just pitchers here, if we're looking at just pitchers, it kind of dries up after that. There's only, a handful of 50 grade guys, which is why I QO'd Gasser, because he was near the top of this list as far as starters. Only Kodai Senga ranked ahead of him before the international free agents arrived. So everyone here is also very old too. So Nick Lodolo is here. I kind of just want to run it with our young pitching talent. I don't know that, bringing on a 34-year-old Nick Lodolo who is exceeding 10 years of service time is really the best move. If I show you our pitching staff, I've sort of, called up a bunch of guys who are on our 40-man. I've set the rotation to 6 starters just to kind of give a visual of players that may factor for us. So I think BB McElroy is our 1-2. We still have Jared Jones as our 3. Tyler August, I think we could give a shot in the rotation as our 4. And then we also have guys like Brian Hiles, who came up last season and sort of impressed, and Melvin Salazar just got back from a trip to the Fall League where he had the league best fit minus and, was not allowing any homers. So I think maybe even he could step in and contribute if somebody goes down with injury, or we want to move August back to the bullpen. He's still got a lot of movement to unlock, got great pitches here. 23, I think he's probably ready. He's a scouting discovery, actually, from very, very early in the sim, too. This is actually the second or third month that we were playing, we discovered Salazar. So I think maybe he could be interesting to throw in as a 5th starter. So I don't know that we necessarily need pitching. And then the back end of our bullpen looks something like this. I'm not super committed to Cole Sands as the closer, but I do like that he provides decent movement and control and is pretty well balanced against both sides. I think maybe we would look to give it to Zimmerman. Zimmerman came up last season and was just striking out guys at a crazy rate. And he's got 2 80-grade pitches throwing close to triple digits. I just kind of worry about his stamina being, the limiting factor with him closing games every other day or back-to-back days. But, we have a lot of guys here. We have Jason Solis, Antoine Kelly. All of these players, I think, are major league caliber. I don't know that we necessarily need pitching. So when we go back to the table here and kind of look at these guys, it's do we really want to pay for a veteran, because all of these guys are going to be seeking long-term deals. So, that's why I sort of lean on maybe Justin Martinez for a very short-term deal. I don't know. I'm kind of still weighing what we want to do with this huge pool of available money. So Let me know if you feel strongly about any of these pitchers. I won't even bother really showing the 45 grade guys. I mean, I have identified a few names down here that are interesting. Like, I saw Wellington Herrera in here. And, he's only 27. He's a lefty. And he brings great movement, slider, sinker. He's only a 2-pitch guy. But, and wants a modest amount of money, has an option year left. So maybe it does make sense to bring him on. He's been decent in Colorado, like a 1-WAR player. Sure. But he's very splits forward. I mean, he's like an insane lefty specialist, but, kind of just average against righties. He could make sense, I suppose, being as young as he is. Maybe we look to throw a dart on him, but there's really, there's not many other options here that, really wow me, I guess. So, I don't know that we'll do much on the pitching side. As far as batters go, there are, I would say, more 50 grade talent, obviously, but it's kind of a similar story of them all being pretty old. There are 2 interesting guys at the very top, though. Xavier Isaac is here, who is a big lefty power bat. Has finally hit free agency, spent time in this sim with Tampa and Cincinnati. So if we go to his career stats here, 4 years with Tampa, 2 with Cincinnati, actually hit 48 homers back in 2028 with Tampa, and was a 4-WAR player for them in back-to-back years. They, I guess, traded him in 2029. I would have to go into his history and see, but he found his way to Cincinnati, where you think he would hit a ton more homers, but he's kind of just been close to a 1-WAR player. So, he plays left field, but he could also play first base. I think if our roster was in a different situation, it would be interesting to bring him on as a full-time first baseman. And maybe we could look to do that. I don't know. It's just the challenge with these guys at the very top, because they're at the top of the market. They can kind of dictate what the contract looks like. And obviously I would not sign on for, a 9-figure deal all guaranteed. It's just too scary for us. And I think we have so much young talent in our system. I would rather just cycle new guys in and, not be committal. But Nick Kurtz is here as well, and kind of a similar story. Very highly decorated first baseman, has a 5-WAR season, and it's coming off a 3-WAR season. Has a couple more 4 and 3-WAR seasons in the past. So he's been very, very consistent and actually destroys right-handed pitching. Is a little bit older than Isaac, I think about a full year older, but and is a little more platoon vulnerable. Left-handed pitching kind of gives him more of a trouble, whereas Xavier Isaac, if I go to his ratings, he's a little more well-balanced. Kind of reminds me of O'Neal Cruz in a way, back in O'Neal's prime. But with more power, I would say. Definitely more power. O'Neal never had 70 grade power. He was always in the 60s. So those 2 guys are interesting at the top. Carlos Correa is here at 37. I think that's probably a no. Brady House is here at 28. He is maybe I just don't know where we fit these guys in, but he's here. He's coming off a negative 1.7 WAR season where he hit under 200. So it's kind of tough for him. I don't necessarily want to bring that into our clubhouse. Other guys here like Brian Rocchio, Colt Keith is pretty well balanced as a first base option. 50s across the board, 55, same on both sides. I think he looks pretty safe, and he is on the more modest end of deals we would need to hand out. So, potentially could make a move for him, although he's been a negative WAR player for 2 consecutive years in Detroit. So it's what are we signing up for here if we bring on Colt Keith, I'll kind of have to think about this more off camera as well and kind of shape our strategy. I think if we look to make moves, I could think about maybe a backup infielder. Angel Henao is here, who I find interesting. He's a switch hitter from the Cleveland org. But, all of these guys in the 45 range, I'm not going to dive in and break down their attributes with you, but I think there are interesting names like Carter Johnson, Eric Lara, who I've already highlighted here. George Lombard Jr. is here, and he actually just wants a minor league deal, so we can hop on that. There are definitely players to bring in. I just don't know that it's going to be flashy, so that may be a little disappointing, but obviously our team is very good and very strong, so I don't know where we would look to replace guys. But I think we're going to end the episode here, and I'll look to handle the rest of the offseason in next episode. If we don't end up doing much, I think it'll move very quickly, and then we'll just have to look forward to, IAFA signing period, spring training results, and of course the dev lab. So even if we don't make signings, there are still things, of course, to look forward to. But I'll let you guys go. I'm sure this has maybe run a little bit long. I've sort of been rambling, but I appreciate you guys for watching. If you have made it this far, I would, it would be awesome if you could throw a like on the video. Any sign of engagement helps. Grow the channel, encourages me to make more of these videos. Leave a comment if you're feeling super bold, but no pressure, of course. So I'll check back with you guys tomorrow for a new episode, and, we'll get this ball rolling on the 2032 season together. So looking forward to it. I'll check you guys later.